And I don't think there's anything wrong with exploring different types of connections. It's like trying on shirts and clothes. Be like, I feel really good in this one.
Be like this. I need to want them right away, or it needs to
Yeah.
feel like hot and sexy like this. Yeah, totally.
A difficult conversation is one where you have fear to share it because you believe it's going to hurt them or it's going to hurt you or it's going to do something negative. You ask yourself, what are you finding difficult to communicate? And realize that love is not as Disney-like as we want it to be, long lasting.
I've been single for 2 years too, so I've been like exploring myself in different ways, like letting myself like recently, like I haven't had a lover in a long time. Like
In all these golden relationships that people desire, in what ranges do you need to be so that you are in sort of the range of a very healthy relationship that is going to go the distance?
hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Vulnerable AF podcast. And today is going to be a very special episode for you. I have the pleasure of having a conversation and interviewing Chay, who him and I have a very special relationship. Joe is an ex of mine. Him and we dated for 2 years, and we have just been friends ever since. And him and I have had a really um, special and interesting relationship, and we'll dive into that in this podcast. But I'm just really excited about interviewing Joe because Joe is someone who I've learned from. Like, Joe has taught me a lot of the things that I teach others. And I have grown so much in our relationship, in our friendship. And he's a community builder, a connector. He helps people have better relationships and communicate confidently, authentically. And yeah, and with him and I have had some challenging conversations. Like, I have learned so much about how to have hard conversations through my relationship with Joe. And I'm excited about this conversation because we're going to dive into that specifically. We're going to talk about hard conversations and how to have them and how to approach them. And the one and specifically why I want to talk to Joe today, and why, and I'm gonna have Joe introduce himself in a moment. But I want to talk about repair and the importance of repair conversations. So, okay, Joe, please introduce yourself and yeah, let us know who you are.
Hello. Wow. Well, I am an ex of Veronica Kaulinis, is the way I define myself in the world and as my career. Um, and thank you, Veronica. You're someone I dearly loved for so long before we were dating, while we were dating, and after we were dating. The love is still there, and it's something I just want to say I feel super proud of. And even we got to spend really intense time together at Burning Man, and there was this hiccup where it was like, uh, and it was some difficult things in there that I didn't feel like I showed up for in the best way possible. And the fact that we still keep coming back to love and to care and to support and it feels something that I really am honored by and something I'm proud of. I still think there's a video of our breakup that I've used in one of my programs where I share it as like where I showed it to a couple of people of like, guys, this is what a breakup can look like. And people were just like, had this look on their face like, oh my God, you guys did what? That's crazy. And it's a testament to who you are and a testament to who we are together that we can keep coming back to this place, even when it's hard, feelings get hurt. And so, yeah, so okay, myself, besides being the ex of Veronica Kaulinis, my other resumes include building many communities, both in the digital space, cooking community, 52 countries, 700 cities, and a physical community space, co-living in New York called Lighting Society with my partner Timothy. My first community, I was 18 years old, was a live music community in Bali. Living in Bali now. I created a couple communities around transformational festivals and full expression of self and kind of bring the Burning Man culture here. And something you don't know is I got a hit recently to build actually another physical community with a lot of houses and wellness, longevity center, TEDx podcast studios, auditorium, little retreat center, etc. So that will be a very likely future thing to put on the resume. But really, I would say that the main pillars for me, the umbrella is helping people to take really brave steps towards extraordinary alignment in their lives. And the pillars underneath that are community, connection, and communication. And I've created the first comprehensive framework for human connection. I have a book coming out on that later this year. And it really helps people break down, see the types of connections they have, relationships. It names them, it visualizes them, and gives you ways to see where you're low and you're high, and so that you can work on them if it's a connection you really love. And it gives you like a percentage of how likely you are to be in a golden relationship, one that's like, the thing that most of us want, fully expressed, not a perfect relationship, but one that's like super healthy. So that's pretty much my whole life.
Mm. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I wanna dive into, like, what a golden relationship is, and I wanna hear more about that. And I also just wanna acknowledge you too, because when Joe and I met, I was I was building my business as a coach, as a facilitator, and, like, doing this work, and, Joe was doing something different. He was really building his physical community in Brooklyn at Lightning Society, and then, um, over the years, recently, Joe has really been stepping into this new realm of helping people with their communication, with connections, with relationships, and, like, really, like, writing a book, like, so I'm so happy for you that I'm not even that I'm happy for you, of course, but, like, it's so beautiful to see you step into your power in this way, because
Thank
'cause I've
you.
always seen it this way. Yeah.
Thank you, Veronica. It feels good too. There's been, it's embarrassing how much money I've spent on retreats and workshops, and I'm pretty sure you can say the
No.
same.
I mean, when we were dating, Joe was like, did you just sign up for another program? Like, are you
Yeah,
addicted to are you a personal development junkie?"
yeah,
I
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Eh,
I think you actually were. And may,
I
and listen, if you're going to be an addict at something, that's probably the best one to be a personal development addict or retreat addict. But I've been traveling around the world teaching a lot on human connection, communication, just getting clarity. And I have a program called the Six Figure Soul Purpose, where I've really helped people take into a process to find like what are they really good at and what do they really desire, and how do you actually make money at that so you're not this just a starving artist or. So I've had 12 businesses over the years, and so I know a little bit about business processes and things of the sort.
yeah.
So yeah, it feels good to step into it. At the same time, there's things I love and don't love about it, like having to build like these websites and forums and funnels. I'm like, God, I need help with this stuff.
Content and
The
yep,
worst.
I know. Yeah, but what I also wanna dig into, I wanna know more about a golden relationship, what that requires, but what like, to me, when I think about a relationship and what I've learned through being in being in relationships, dating, and the most powerful thing that I've been cultivating and navigating is how to have those hard conversations inside a relationship, because I think a lot of people, they want this amazing, beautiful, golden relationship, and I wanna know more about that, but it also takes something to
Mm,
have that, to hold that. And something, that I appreciate about you and I is that we have been able to have repair conversations. Like,
yeah.
there has been many times in our relationship where both of us, either one of us could have easily said, "You know what? I'm done with this person. Or like, or it's very valid. It would be it would have, there were some scenarios in our journey. We've known each other for a
Yeah.
long time, almost 8 years. There's been many moments where either one of us could have been really valid to say, okay, I'm complete with this friendship, with this relationship. And but we've stayed, right? And it's not just like staying. We were willing to have the hard conversation
Yeah.
and also love each other, come back to love through those hard conversations. Like, so for example, recently, Joe and I camped at Burning Man together,
Yeah.
and we haven't seen each other. I mean, we've seen each other over the years, but like we haven't spent time together. And there were a couple of hard conversations that we had, and there
Yeah.
was a moment that where I felt. I mean, we have hurt each other in our dynamic. I think that's our relationship, but that's how we've. I mean, that's who we are, right? We're people who are we're like we get our hands deep into this like communication realm, and yeah, we hurt each other at Burning Man, and um and we had a conversation about it. And here we are recording this podcast because I think this conversation about communication, about connection, about community is so much bigger than just me and you and our little drama.
And it's always funny. It's always interesting how most of the time that hurt comes from wanting to be heard and wanting to be more connected and feeling disconnected. And, I really realized something that makes it easier when you do get into those arguments is when you can come back to this person just wants to be close to me and they're hurt or they feel disappointed or they feel disconnected and or there's an action that resulted in feeling in this disconnection and underneath it the reason why they're upset or hurt is they just want to be closer. So it's I think that's an important piece to understanding the fighting. And I actually have a program where I can take you through the healthy ways to fight in doing the connection map. Maybe let me just take no, I guess go straight into it. When doing the connection map, I interviewed a ton of people on uh, that others thought had this amazing relationship. So I would ask the world friends I'd put out on, into the world. I'd say, who do you know that has an incredible relationship? Not a perfect one, but one that you really admire. And so I would take all those people and I'd interview them and I'd ask, what are your secrets to having this long-term relationship? Some of them 10, 20, 30, 40 years of marriage or relationship. And so I would figure out what was there. And then I would break that down. And then I would look for the similarities in between them. And it's interesting because one of the things they all had in common is they knew how to fight in a way that was proper. They knew how to come back to love or what you're calling is repair. They knew how to take space, what we call sovereignty management. That was a big one. And ultimately, they just didn't want to get divorced at the exact same time. And that's what some of them would joke about. So, looking at this is how I developed this concept of a golden relationship. And I'm coining that because some people say Mr. Right, Mr. Wrong, etc. And or uh, and that sort of signifies or like, the knight in shining armor or the princess or whatever it is. I realize that love is not as Disney like as we want it to be. Long lasting love is not as it doesn't look as sexy as the movies want it to look. And so I was curious when breaking down human connection, what range do we need to be in for each thread inside of each cord? So let me just take a step back. The connection map, if I could show a picture, it just looks like it's just like a radial graph. and maybe in the podcast we can stick in an image. And it has 4 chords. So there's a situational chord, an ease chord, an alignment chord, and a sexuality chord. And in each chord, there's 8 threads. So, for example, in the alignment chord, we have your value alignment, your lifestyle alignment, how much care you feel you give to this person, how much care you perceive receiving from this person. What is your intention to merge your lives together, whether that's marriage, children, dating, trips, whatever, how much trauma you have in that connection, and is there any deal breaker? So that's like an example of one chord. So my question was, in all these golden relationships that people desire, in what ranges do you need to be so that you are in sort of the range of a very healthy relationship that is going to go the distance? And what I found is it's actually extremely dead on for all of them. So for example, there's a thread called communication ease, which is what we're talking about. And so you'd ask a question. How do you perceive your communication? Is it really difficult and sticky? Is it really hard? Is it like super fluid and easy? Is it usually decent with a couple sticky points, etc.? So there's a scale. And what we found is if you are under a certain amount, the chances of you having a healthy relationship are very low. If you're answering, our communication's difficult, it's hard to get anything done and talk, then it's very unlikely you can you can have a long-term healthy relationship with this person. And so we found that with every thread, there's a range to be in. And so there's some interesting ones, which is, for example, in the sexuality chord, there's one called attraction. And we found that when attraction's at 10, it actually it actually distorts all the other threads. So you actually, in a long-term relationship, you actually don't want your attraction to be a 10. You actually want it to be like a 6 to an 8 or 5 to an 8 or 9. And which is kind of, I thought was hilarious because everyone thinks, oh, you want to be so attracted to someone.
Be like this. I need to want them right away, or it needs to
Yeah.
feel like hot and sexy like this. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But if the attraction's a 2, it's also not good, right? So,
Right.
it's interesting to find that. So that's what a golden relationship is. It's just a relationship that really is within range in all the aspects of human connection. And I have a quiz that you can take and it will spit back and tell you the chances if you are a golden relationship or not. And the idea is it's not a perfect one. It just has all the ingredients. It's like baking a bread. If you have like way too much salt or too little, it's not going to work. If you have too much flour or water, it's not going to work. So you just have the ingredients are high enough that the chances are high. It doesn't mean it's going to work out. Just means all the things are there.
Yeah, totally. I love that. It's funny what you said about attraction, because there was someone I was dating recently. Him and I had a short stint together, and we had we were super attracted to each other, but our communication was so not in my wheelhouse. Like it wasn't easy to communicate with him, and and it's true about the distortion, right? Because I'm like, oh
Yeah, it's
wow,
so hot, so
yeah,
sexy.
so sexy. Like I can't believe that we connect on this level so well, but our emotional connection isn't there. And I'm someone who I need emotional connection. I mean, I talk about vulnerability. I need connection, communication. Like that's high value for me. So I didn't feel it didn't feel easeful for me. Like the connection wasn't easeful.
Yeah.
So and now over the years, I've really worked on and that ended and it was beautiful and I appreciate it for what it was. And I knew it wasn't going to last for a long time, but it was fun for what it was. And like sometimes like I think relationships can be that way too. Like, okay, can I have fun with this person? Can I let myself have this kind of connection with this person. But over the years, I've really worked on going slower in dating and in my relationships. Like, actually, when I meet someone who's like super attracted to me or like wants to go fast right away or wants to be in a relationship with me right away, I don't trust it. I get turned off because or like I don't feel alignment there because it doesn't feel authentic to me because it's easy to put someone on a pedestal like, oh my god, I'm attracted to them and they do this and they do these things and oh my god, and like create this fantasy about them. And then the minute that they do something that's, imperfect and human, it's easy to villainize them or like, oh
Yeah.
no, I'm not attracted to them anymore. So in the past, like years ago, I would meet someone and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing, or I would get really high off of someone feeling like that way towards me, and then maybe 3 months later it would fizzle out or something would shift because we weren't meeting with like emotional sobriety, right? Or like going slow and checking these things. So I love that you're creating frameworks where we can check these things. Like, okay, I'm super attracted to this person and this doesn't this is also like a 5. And what do I need for me to feel for the type of relationship that I want, right? Or what's really important for me. Like
Mhm.
I don't need I guess I want to feel attracted to someone, but like I don't it doesn't need to be like, oh my God, he has half a six pack and he's at 6'10" and sexy and this. Like, no, right? But like yes, attraction, but also I need a high level of emotional connection and some other things as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're speaking about in the connection map is the platonic intimacy scale, like that trust and like that feeling of emotional connection. And,
Peace.
it sounds like,
Perfect.
yeah. And I bet you if you map that connection, your sexuality chord would be an H and high and maybe E's in alignment, maybe a little bit
Oh,
lower.
it
And,
was not
and it's
fun.
also okay, right? Like,
Yeah.
the idea is, the idea for me is not to shame any type of connection, but just to recognize what it is and then recognize, is that what I want? Because if you're going, you know, I believe that like most people's hearts is like a one car garage, right? You can put one thing in there, and if you have something in there that's not what you really want, it's a broken down, crappy Dodge Omni with rust, and it gets you from point A to point B and it functions, but it's not truly what you want. When you try to call in your dream car, you call the dealership up, it delivers the car to your house, the garage opens and it goes, "Oh, there's no place to park it," and it goes back, right? So it's like we only can have as much as we accept in our connections. So if we're accepting one that's super hot and sexy, but not emotionally connected and easeful, then that's all we get. And so we have to clean it up and keep that empty before, because it's very difficult to trade in, one after another. I mean, polyamory does this pretty well, where there's like you're with someone that you can kind of switch one out real quickly. But other than that, it's not really. You need to create some
There's a lot of
space.
energy. There's a lot
Oh
of energy,
God.
like, take it up when you're like, you're spending and I think I know, Joe and I, we back in our day, we were open and monogamous and practiced different types of relating, and ultimately, we realized that we were spending so much time processing about other people versus actually just being together.
Yeah.
And now, I'm more monogamous and or I'm monogamous now. Where, but I also like have a lot of I've been single for 2 years too. So I've been like exploring myself in different ways. Like letting myself like recently, like I haven't had a lover in a long time. Like And I was aware of myself in this during the time frame where I was seeing that guy that I just spoke about, where I'm like, okay, I've been calling in partnership and it's not this isn't it, but like I am going to let myself have fun. And I did, right? And I learned lessons along the way and I saw myself and I noticed where there's still things for me to look at and work on and when it comes to my relationship. So, but yeah, going back to the open relating piece, yeah, I find that like for me, I choose monogamy now because I actually feel more free. I feel actually more like I have more spaciousness in my life when I know I'm just seeing one person and we're building intimacy, we're building connection, versus like processing about other people. And sometimes, like for me, it was when I was more so worried about other people or trying to have an unconventional relationship, I was avoiding true intimacy with myself and with my partner. And it was a way to not really be with what's here for
Mhm.
me. I'm not saying that's for everybody. And I've learned so much from being open and exploring polyamory, like oh my God, I learned so much about communication, around jealousy, around navigating challenges, boundaries, being really freaking honest when it's hard. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and, and I remember there was times I remember sitting in, I think it was your room, and it was just like, I don't wanna talk about other people, I just wanna be with you, and I just wanna like us, I just wanna have experiences with us, um, and I also have felt the same that many times. I think for me, honestly, a lot of it was actually this scarcity mentality of like, in this fear of being alone, where it's like, okay, well, if you leave me, I already had this connection already primed and, and it's there and I can go fall back on that. So, and again, this is not projected at anyone else, but just noticing my past is, I think there was part of that of maybe, and I think there was also some validation that comes with it too for me. For example, uh, I mean, sexuality is the ultimate validation. Like if you're gonna be sexual with someone, you're saying, if it's a male female, you're saying, I think that you have the right attributes and genetically to make a baby, right? Like that's a pretty strong statement. And I know that people don't think that way, but I think somewhere's underneath that. And it's like, and it's true, like there's people you're gonna have sex with or not have sex with. Why is that? Right. And it's not
Yeah.
always based on looks. Sometimes they're just really intelligent or have a lot of resources or, or whatever reason it
Yeah.
is, there's something in there that you really feel is good enough to have the chance of making a baby with. So, I mean, that's kind of the ultimate validation. And I think for me, there was something in me that really was desiring that validation from others. And so there's something really validating when someone just like, accepts you into their physical and sexual space. And, I believe I moved away from that quite a bit, that so much I don't even recognize myself as sometimes, I mean, I was definitely an ethical slut for sure. And, preaching the polyamorous lifestyle.
Mhm.
Um, and I also agree with you, Veronica. I'm so grateful for that because it taught me so much about communication and it taught me so much about like, why do I feel hurt or not feel hurt in here? When do I feel insecure? What makes me feel insecure? How do I talk about it? What do I really want here? And do I really just desire this person? Is this, what is it here that is drawing me to this? And I need to be able to explain that to someone that I love and I want, and I don't want to hurt them. So how do I communicate that in a good way? And also be okay if they're like, you know what, this is actually really hard for me. And I don't feel comfortable or safe with this person. And it's hilarious how you could be like, there's times when you're like, yeah, I feel comfortable with you having sex with this person, having intercourse, and I actually don't feel you comfortable even like going on a little date and kissing them with this other person. And it's like, there's not always, you know, I think there's logic to it, but it doesn't always make sense, right?
Yeah. And I think it comes from like this perceived threat, right? If I feel
Mm,
threatened by this other person,
yeah,
and it comes back to the scarcity piece. Like I know for me, um, yeah, maybe there was a maybe I can speak in the context of you and I. Maybe there was a woman that I felt threatened by because she had the qualities in her that I didn't have or that I wanted.
yeah,
So the threat was that you would find her more lovable than me. And I used to have a story about myself that I'm hard to love, that I'm difficult, that I'm too much. And I'm still navigating. I still, I still navigate that. And and something and this is why I do what I do. This is why I talk about vulnerability. This is why vulnerable AF is not
mm,
just like the thing I talk about sometimes. It's like it's the thing that brings me to my knees every day. And yeah, it's something I still navigate, and I think, I've definitely, like, worked through that a lot more over the years, but I remember in the context of you and I, maybe there were moments where I'm like, "Oh, am I too much? Maybe he's gonna want someone who's easier to love, right? Or who's more, like, flowy and feminine and light," and, those were qualities in me that I wanted to have more, right? Yeah, and it's and that's and just being able to name that is so beautiful in a partnership and being able to love each other in that, right? And I think going back to the repair piece, I think what's really beautiful and what creates alignment in a relationship or what creates like easeful communication, easeful connection is when you can be like loved in your mess, right? When you know, like, wow, all right, yeah, I made a mistake and this person still sees me, right? Or this person is still there. I trust that I can like be a mess and this person still finds me attractive. This person still loves me. This person still finds me lovable, right? And can I love this person in their mess? That's a big one, right? Um, like you and I, for example, like yeah, we had hard shit come up and all of my shit came up, all of my like the things that I didn't want people to really know about me, like you knew, right? And same with you. There was things that you didn't want people to really know about you and I had to not had to, but I got to like love you anyway and choose you. And I think it's about choosing someone. Like I choose you. I choose this connection. And I had this ping about bringing spirituality into this because I think like when a relationship is aligned, whether you're supposed to be together forever or not, but like you and I, we're not together, right? But we still relate. We still have a relationship with each other because I think sometimes there's the alignment piece around what is this relationship in service to? Like I think you and I stayed together for as long as we did, and we went through a journey, like, not together, broke up, got back together. Um, and then we had a long stint of being together because there was something we needed to do together. It was like, I don't know what this is with this person. Like for me, it was like, I don't know, like I can't let this person go because there was something I think that you and I just needed to create together and do together. And we did, right? I think our relationship was just so much bigger than us. And that's what I think I want other people to know too. Sometimes when you're getting into a relationship or you're dating someone, um, it's a question that I like to think about is what is this connection and service to? Like, what
mm,
if I was with this person, what would we do together? Like, could we create together? And it might not be like an empire together or like a course together, right? That might be like, I would love to have that with my partner, but like also there might be other things that you're supposed to do together, or create children together, family together. Like, what is that? Right. So yeah, and I think you and I come back to each other, or at least for me, I come back to you because I freaking see you, and I know what it takes to be someone who talks about communication and vulnerability and the hard shit around community. Um, it takes mistake it takes the willingness to make mistakes, and you and I have made many mistakes and loved each other through our mistakes. And that's something a lot of people don't do. I see a lot of people just like let go of a relationship where they're, well, this person hurt me. This person said this to me, or this person did this. I can't believe it. It's like, oh, okay, like what about your shit and your imperfection, right? So yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about that.
I mean, I think what you're describing is unconditional love. And I think when you unconditionally love someone, it's detached from the form or the connection type that you want to project onto it. So, and it's really easy to to project partner, onto someone that's beautiful and incredible and fun and aligned. And um, it's really easy to project that and get really disappointed when it's not that, and get confused when it's not that, and be frustrated if it's not that. And, the true testament of unconditional love is staying present with that person and in loving and care, regardless of the form that the connection takes, whether it's a puppy lovership, or if it's a golden relationship, or if it's a bunny black hole connection, like whatever it is, just loving that person and recognizing what does this connection want to be naturally. And yeah, I think that's what you're describing. And I think something that we have for each other is an unconditional love and a respect and admiration. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, there was, very vulnerably at Burning Man when we were hanging out, it was like, wow, you're amazing still. And have we changed? Should we be considering partnership again? And it was like, we're having so much fun. And it's like, maybe let's, and I think I'm guilty of that, of questioning that and trying to maybe, and I don't think there's anything wrong with exploring different types of connections. It's like trying on shirts and clothes, be like, I feel really good in this one, or this one doesn't look so good on me, or it mostly looks good, but maybe I wouldn't wear this in every occasion, and, so I think being able to to, uh, come back to that love and that respect and that care, and be able to communicate it, and even communicate when you miscommunicate it, you know, earlier this year, I feel like I didn't do a good job of that. There was hurt that was still there that I was carrying that I wasn't even aware I was carrying. It was like, man, where did that? I was like, sometimes it's things just come out that you're not proud of, and you don't want to be there. You don't want to carry that, but somehow it is. And um, yeah. So and there's tools that I've learned over the years to help with those difficult communications, and how to like take it to the next level. And if you want, I can share some. I think you were asking about them earlier. I could share some. There's one called The Art of a Difficult Conversation. And another one I built a whole AI communication tool that I can send to your listeners if you'd like, which is, it's a
Yeah.
framework that it's above. If you're familiar with nonviolent communication, uh, Rosenberg has a really good a book, and he created this sort of framework for communication that I found very useful. But I would call that a level 2 communication, and I actually created one that's more of a level 3, and I'm working with some other people to get into the level 4 communication frameworks. Because the truth is, when you communicate something difficult with love and care, and if you go about it the right way, you can receive that feedback. You can receive that that statement more with love, or the chances go up. you also have to check your amount of emotional flooding. Are you even able to receive anything, no matter what it is? Sometimes we're just in the red, and doesn't matter how you communicate, it's not hearing it.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's easy to when you're especially when you're getting into these frameworks and you're learning these tools or you're attending authentic relating workshops or you're
Yeah.
reading nonviolent communication, it's really easy to get in your head and think, I'm gonna say that this thing or I I heard that I heard you say this.
Yeah.
And it can be robotic. And it's so important to really, like, tune into the body. Go, like, really check in with yourself. How am I feeling? What is the truth? Like, how am I fucking pissed? Am I like like Joe and I, we there was at the end of Burning Man, all so we had a hard, very hard conversation. And I was crying because I felt really hurt. I felt really
Yeah.
hurt, and, like, instead of being like, "No, I'm not mad. No, it's fine." I felt sad, and I felt hurt, and I shared it, and I shared it in real time, and we got to talk through it, and it wasn't resolved in that moment, and it actually took a couple weeks. And then I like, the truth is I love Joe. Like, I
Yeah.
love him, and I know he wasn't intentionally trying to hurt me, and we have a different relationship where, like, I can see him through I saw him through those things, and I also saw myself. Also, like, I checked in with myself, like, what was my part in that situation? Um, and then, and we got to and we talked through it. And like and for me, the way I'm connecting with Joe is I'm like, let's do a podcast. And like
Mm.
that's, that's a way I like to connect, right? It's like through communication, through connection. Um, yeah. And I think I really value the way that we can move on from things. And yeah, so anyway, I want to go back. I just want to speak to that piece around like not getting in your head about these things and really checking in with yourself. And if you need to feel something or if you are feeling something, it's I think it's great practice to learn how to name it and
Mm.
feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share maybe the formula for a difficult conversation that can be really
Yeah.
helpful. So, a difficult conversation is one where you have fear to share it because you believe it's going to hurt them, or it's going to hurt you, or it's going to do something negative. There's fears with the expression of something that you are holding inside of you, regardless of what. So, what I call them connection wedges, and think of a connection wedge is an upside down triangle. And when there's something that is unsaid, that wedge comes between you, and it just starts pushing you further and further away. Time will bring that triangle down. So it's going to push the two people away the longer that connection wedge is there, just by default, until it will either break the connection or blow up or something. So the idea is we want to clear any connection wedges that we have with people that we care about, or friends, or lovers, or partners, husbands, wives, so that the connection can keep clear. So here's a formula for a difficult conversation. It's got three parts. The first part, you just go through and you figure out what the three are, and then I'll take you through how to deliver it. So you ask yourself, what are you finding difficult to communicate? So maybe we can take an example, maybe a silly example. Um, uh, let's say someone, your partner or someone you're dating, has really bad breath or halitosis, and
Uh,
you notice that they don't notice that, but you're just like finding it difficult. So you're not kissing them, and they feel the disconnection, and you're like, but they don't know why and what's going on. So that's a small, silly connection wedge example. So what you're finding difficult to communicate is, I find your breath kind of gross. And so number two is, what are you afraid will happen if you share this thing? well, I'm afraid that they're going to be hurt, or they're going to think that I don't want to kiss them, or that they're gross, or, or I'm afraid they're going to think I'm picky, or there's some
Yeah.
fear there. And then 3 is the outcome you'd like to see happen by sharing this. So maybe in that case, it's you just want them to maybe go get it checked out, or maybe brush their teeth, or see what's going on here, right? So those are the 3 parts. So what are you finding difficult to say? Then what are you afraid will happen? And then the 3 is the outcome. And then the way that you deliver it is you deliver it 2, 3, and then 1. So let me explain what that means. So in the beginning, 1 is what you're finding difficult, 2 is what you're afraid will happen, 3 is the outcome. So you deliver it in 2, 3, 1. But first you start with something, is this, you check in. Hey, is this a good time to talk? Because it might not be. So,
Right.
and
I was
then
thinking.
you go in.
Mhm.
You start with what you're afraid may happen by sharing it. Hey, this is really hard for me to say because I'm afraid if I share it, you might feel bad or get self-conscious. And I don't want you to think I'm too picky. So you're giving them the reason, and you're starting with vulnerability, actually, which is up your alley. And then you go to the outcome you'd like to happen. So you'd say something like, I'm sharing this because I really love you and I want to stay connected to you. And by sharing this, I would like us to feel even closer so you don't feel anything weird from me. And then you go to the 1, which is what you're difficult. I'm noticing I'm like keeping a little distance because something's going on with the breath here. And, um, and then you can add some things, which is opening. You can end with a curiosity question, or something that can open up dialogue. It's an invitation to dialogue. Would you be, are you open to having some conversations together of like, how do we how do we figure this out together? You know? Or I'd be curious, like, you know, is there something going on that I don't know about? Are you feeling okay? So if it needs to come from true curiosity. So that's the formula. You do first you start with check-in, then you say what you're afraid will happen by sharing it. 3 is the outcome you want to see come from sharing it. And then you go to 1, which is the thing that you are afraid to say. And that's a bit of a formula for a difficult conversation.
Mm, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it's a formula where you share withhold, right? Like
Yeah.
where it's like again I think getting in the practice of sharing withholds is so valuable. It's so
Yeah.
important. It's such great practice in having these conversations. I was in a program for a few years, or there's uh, it's called Landmark, and I did Landmark for like 3 years, and every and it's a professional and personal development program, and one of our homework assignments every week was to have and I think it was a enrollment conversation, and basically it was getting in the practice of sharing withholds, like, hey, I've been pretending this, or I've been
Yeah.
withholding this. And the truth is that, and
Mm.
here's the possibility I want to create with you, right? Here's what I'm desiring. Here's what I'm, like, and like sharing from owning personal responsibility, sharing from your part, right? Like taking ownership, like I've been withholding from you, or I've been pretending this.
Mm.
And the truth is this. And here's what I want to create, right? So, yeah, I love that framework. That's a good one to think about, to bring it back to curiosity, to connect back to the fear. And again, I think this is such a great framework, and it's so important to like not get really caught up in the steps
And
as
the
well.
robot.
And the robotic, like, wait, I said this and then I have to say that, because if you don't feel fear, then don't pretend that you feel fear if you don't feel fear, just because that's part of the framework. But
Yeah.
just really going back to that piece of truth, like, this is difficult for me. I've been withholding this, or I've been pretending that this doesn't bother me, and it does bother me.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, thank you for sharing that. And we can share that in the show notes too.
I love, one quote I really love that feels really poignant in this conversation is compassion without truth is enabling, but truth without compassion is abuse. And, I remember, when I was younger, I lied a lot. I remember even like one of my teachers, like, screaming at me and calling me a liar. And I was so offended. And I was actually lying. I remember I was actually lying. And I learned at a young age that I could just lie about things and I wouldn't get in trouble. Right. And so that got brought into, you know, later on in life. And there was a point where it was like, wow, this is a problem. Like I'm lying and I need to not do that. So I'm just like, I'm going to tell the truth all the time. And And then I did, and it was hurting people's feelings. And, but I was telling the truth and I was not withholding anything. And I was, and then the second part to that is you have to do it with compassion or else you're abusing somebody. And, you know, I'm sure we've done that to each other. I'm sure I've done that to you. And it's like, okay, how do we, yes, tell the truth, but with compassion. And also it's true with these frameworks. It's important to note that you need to practice them. Like I have programs that we practice them so that it becomes organic to deliver it. Otherwise, I always joke with these like uh I don't know what you call them. We call them a booty and like a boonie and conversations where it's like,
From
thank you for
Bali.
sharing. Yeah, it's like the Bali reference where like there's a place
Oh,
in
like,
Bali.
I'm sorry you're hurt. Oh, yeah, like, I'm sorry that what I said hurt your feelings. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just like gaslighting. Yeah. Hmm.
But they're following the formulas, right? They're following
Right.
nonviolent communication. But the problem is it's not authentic and
Right.
it's not integrated into their language. So these tools are great because they can help you deliver a hard message in a way that's a lot easier to digest. But it has to also be with the heart, and people need to feel your presence and authenticity, or else you're just it's another way of abusing somebody.
Right. Right. Like I remember when I lived in Austin a year, I guess almost a year ago now. I lived in Austin for years and I love Austin. And there was a woman that I am friends with. But every time I shared something, she's like, love that. Love that. And like and then there was a point where I
Mm.
had to ask, I had like, do you really love that? I feel like you just are. I noticed that you just say that
And for
habitually
everything.
after everything I say. And I notice I feel contraction when you say it
Mm.
because I'm curious if you're like really listening and it was a hard conversation to bring up, but I noticed it bothered me. Um and sometimes and I don't even think she was like and she didn't even like realize she was doing it, but she was also trying to be like compassionate and listening and approving and it's just I think it's just such good practice to get into that. Notice where you're habitually saying something because you think it's like the nice thing to say or like the the right thing or just notice like what are you habitually saying and is it true, is it authentic, um you know and also notice like where you get contracted, like where like when this person says this it doesn't feel good. And instead of just taking it and like not saying anything or not, it's like how can I get into the practice of bringing curiosity to it because I want to be this person's friend, right? Or I want to keep sharing with this person, or I want to keep having a connection with this person, and this comes up for me, right? So, um, yeah, I love that you brought up how to have this hard conversation. I've been dating. It's interesting. There's I'm just practicing these things all the time. And uh, like, and the thing about, and what I'm practicing too is how can I give people more grace? How can I give myself more grace for my shit and my imperfections? When I'm judging someone, I'll share this quickly. I know we're coming on time, but I went on a date when I first moved back to New York in May, and it was a second date, and we went to a bathhouse here in New York, and he comes over, and we're in our bathing suits and flip flops, and I look down at his toes, and he hasn't clipped his toenails, and like it has to be for years, for a long sprint. I was like, oh my god, like what do I do? Do I say something? And it was like it like brought up this whole thing for me, like, oh my god, how do I bring this to this person? Also, like, is it can I give him grace for maybe he didn't notice or he forgot? Like, and then we ended up talking about it, but you know, like, what the fuck? But it was like it was to me, I took it as such practice to have this hard conversation because I had fear, oh my god, that he would feel embarrassed or that, he would be hurt or, maybe, am I being too picky? Like all of that stuff came up and it actually, like, ended up being, like, a hilarious conversation between him and I.
Mm.
But, like, it was practice for me, and it was also really difficult, and I'm someone who talks about this often. So, just because, you have the conversation once doesn't mean that you're perfect at it. So, this is like I think it's like going to the gym. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a skill, it's like taking that three-point shot on the basketball court. You just gotta keep using it over and over again, then it becomes natural and you start nailing it, right?
Right.
So, and communication's like that, and, you know, the l biggest predictor this is, the Harvard study of adult development. The biggest predictor for a healthy or for a happy life is actually healthy relationships.
Mm,
So, and that's over like nutrition and exercise, which is crazy, right? Just to be happy, it's just healthy relationships. So, how do you have the healthiest relationships? The easiest way is to get really good at communication because those clear, what I'm calling connection wedges, you're calling withholds, same thing. So it's
mm,
like we need to clear those out. The easiest way is communication. There's other tools that are necessary for healthy relationships, but communications is one of the ones that if you really nail that, uh, it's it makes your life a lot easier. I have some free courses that we can maybe put in the podcast notes if
yeah.
anyone wants to learn uh, a lot of these tools. I have a ton of them. Like I said, I built some AIs just to make it easier because I think it's great. Like the nonviolent communication is great. It's like you never shut the cupboards, and like that doesn't. Where does that get you? Or you don't spend enough time with me. You say that statement. Nonviolent communication is going to say, "I feel like I feel." I guess you would say, what would nonviolent communication be? You never shut the cupboards. I
Yeah.
I
I feel
feel
disappointed.
disrespected. Yeah, or
Yeah.
disappointed when you leave the cupboards open. And then I have a framework that's a lot longer. It's like, hey, I really love you, and I'm noticing that when the cupboards are left open, I feel kind of chaotic and I feel disorganized, and that takes up space in my life. And I just wanted to check in and see if you'd be open to paying a little bit more attention with that. Like, does that feel hard for you? I'd love to understand how that feels. Like that's level 3 communication. It's a little bit different, right? So it's not just the I, but it opens up some conversation and also gives some praise and brings in that curiosity while still communicating what happens for you, which is
Yeah.
the same thing. You never leave the cupboards, you never close the cupboards. It's like, okay, what that's actually doing for me is I feel disorganized or chaotic or, or whatever it is. So it's a silly
Yeah, like
example.
naming the impact. Like
Yes.
here's how I'm feeling, and here's the impact. And then and so I love that you talk about curiosity because same thing with the guy with the toes. I asked him like, what is that? Like what's going on? Did you and I was curious, and he shared with me, oh, actually I'm so single focused. I don't think about those things.
Mm.
And like, even though, I disagree, but it was like, okay, I got to like get his world, and I didn't make him wrong. I didn't yell at him or like, you're disgusting. I can't believe you don't clip your toenails. Like, sure, I totally thought it, right? But but I didn't make him wrong because that's what's going on in his world, right? Are we in a relationship? Did we go out on a date again? No. But uh
Is he clipping his toenails from now on before dates?
he is.
Probably.
He got a pedicure.
Probably.
He
I need to
got a
get a
pedicure.
I need to get a pedicure now. Oh my God. He'd probably
I
be
was like,
clear.
when you showed me the pedicure picture, I was like, "Did you give her extra money?"
Oh God.
But because I brought because I also brought, like, love and compassion and curiosity to that conversation, we were able to talk about it and laugh, and he actually laughed about it,
Hmm.
or we were able to have, like a humorous conversation. So, yeah, bringing curiosity is so beautiful because you never know what's going on in someone's world. Like, they might be having a hard week, and they might have just, like, they're, like, not paying attention to the cupboards, or they're just, like,
Yeah.
stressed the fuck
Not a
out.
not a not a priority.
Not a priority, especially so his toenails. Um, or like, uh, I was gonna give another example. Yeah, you never know what's going for I lived with one of my dear friends, and he's very messy. He's much messier than me, and I love him, and he's very messy. It was hard to live with him.
Hmm.
And, it was interesting, like, there were hard conversations that we had, and it brought up some things for me and at many times, and, when we talked about them, I actually got to, like, really understand his world, like, he the mess I see, he doesn't actually see, and I actually got to, like, understand him and have so much more compassion for him, actually, and, like, I was able to actually relax a little bit more, like, and knowing, like, yeah, he's messy, like, he's gonna make a mess, and, um, doesn't mean I have to, like, tolerate it and, like, live with him, like, no, it ended up shifting, and I moved somewhere else, but, I got to, like, just really understand him more instead of making him wrong or putting expectations, like, on him, like, he has to clean it, or it needs to look this way. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, he doesn't see mess the way I do." And I just got to that and then it comes to terms then you have to come to terms with, "Does this work for me? Am I okay with this? If I'm not okay with it, don't keep doing it and then expecting something to be different about someone," right? Um, if someone's messy and it doesn't work, don't keep expecting them to be clean, right? The way that you want them to if that doesn't work, right? So these are like little things, but they can turn into something big if you don't get really clear on what works for me and what doesn't, or how can we make it work together, or what can we do, right? And then my friend and we came up with a solution with each other that worked for a little bit until it didn't, right? So yeah.
Beautiful
So
communication.
communication.
And if you
All right. Huh?
and if you want, and I was just going to, I know we're getting to the end, so
Yeah.
if anyone wants to learn a lot of these tools, I have a mailing list, and I give away stuff every few days, just different tools, classes. I mean, honestly, I spend most of my life just giving things away. So, and this is my mission. My mission is to really help upgrade the language of human connection. And because I really, truly believe that it brings more happiness and peace into this world. If we could get world leaders to sit down and have better communication, I actually believe we would have less war. It seems very idealistic, but I truly believe that. So Yeah,
Mhm.
join the mailing list. I give away a lot of stuff on Instagram also, and
Oh, I'm
um,
not on your mailing list. I have to join it. I didn't
oh,
know
I
that.
would love that. Yeah, you can give me your opinion.
Yeah, I would love that. Well, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast episode with me and having this conversation. It was so valuable. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your gifts. And yeah, if there's one last piece of wisdom that you want to give our listeners who
Hmm.
want to know how to have better conversation or just anything, what comes to you?
Yeah, just it's a skill that you can upgrade in a gigantic way in a very short time. And the benefits from upgrading your communication skills is going to give you healthier relationships in your romantic partnerships, your work, your business, your friends. It's really a powerful tool, and which I know that I've learned actually things from you, Veronica, over the years. Also, there's tools I've learned from you, and it's like just taking the time, put a little effort into that. If you're not sure, hit me up. I'm happy to point you in the right direction to give you some things. And I think the biggest thing is just remember you only get as much as you accept. And that goes in your business, it goes in your romantic life, in your friendships. So if you have a friendship that's just a black hole connection, it's sucking all your energy out, that's all you get, right? That what you accept is all you get. If you have a romantic partnership and you're like, yeah, it's not that great, but it's okay, and they're there most of the time, that's all you get. So you define that reality by what you accept. Just know that really, whatever you want, only accept that.
Mm,
I have a free tool with a connection map. You can check, you can see it, whatever it takes. Ask your friends, and just speak it into the world. Like meditate on it, call it in, whatever you want, and accept nothing more than truly what you want in that true alignment in your job, in your friends, partnerships. Like you deserve it. And,
mm,
get to the place that you know that you deserve to have what you want, vibrate, resonate with that. And it just puts out a honing beacon into the world, into the universe. And the universe responds with the thing that you truly desire. If it is real, if
yeah,
it's not just mimetic from someone else, from advertising, if it's something that you really
right.
desire, it'll come to you.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you guys. Great talking to you, Veronica. Wow. Ciao,
Mwah.
ciao.